Episode 36 of the MatStats Show, back at you after a little break post-convention, post-Olympics. Kevin Hazard and Glenn Gormley here with me. I'm your host, Jason Bryant. Today, we're going to keep diving into the world of the three-point takedown like we did in the last episode. We're going to keep going today. We're going to go with the Division II world. But before we get to that, we got some convention recaps from our Grand Poobah and our Sultan of Stat here. Glenn, Kevin, you guys got to spend the end of July down in Florida. Apparently that place is pretty good with the golf. I know I'm horrible at the golf. Did you guys have a chance to hit the links at all, or was it all wrestling discussion and Glenn bragging about his Vols?
Yeah. I've golfed there twice before, but not this time when I was down there. I just spent the whole week talking wrestling in the Vols. That's about all I did.
Well, we did that, and then we also we set up a booth, but it was fun. I got to see a lot of people, and it's always good. You go to a convention, it's kind of like the NCAA's because you see so many people that you don't get to see during the rest of the year, and that was fun.
So, but is it like, it's not like the suite because I got to feel the level of sobriety for many people that go to the convention significantly lower than it. No, we'll unless you're out on the course, playing for skins or something like that. But we did a live show, a game day type of thing down at the convention. Had a good time with that before I shipped out to Paris, which I can actually talk about now because full disclosure, there is this such thing as a non-disclosure agreement with some of these Olympic contracts. So while many people knew what my role there was going to be, I could not come out and exactly say what I was doing. But that was my third time as the English announcer for the Olympic Games. My first one I went to was in London back in 2012 as part of USA Wrestling's media staff. 2016 I announced in Rio. 2021 announced in Tokyo. Now 2024 announced in Paris. Not just that, but a little nerdery came through it. Had the best man at my wedding, Nate Shy. He wrestled at Franklin and Marshall. Him and his wife were out there with some other friends. Brian Stoll, the head coach at Del Barton, his wife, our buddy Nick Frost, out in Arizona. So it was a crew of us that after we got done with Paris, we went to Munich and spent a couple days down in Munich. Went up to the top of the Zugspitze, the highest mountain in Germany, and then you could actually walk across a little footbridge. It wasn't like hanging over a mountain or anything. Into Austria, you get your passport stamped. But gentlemen, there were beer gardens at the top of a mountain. We drank at the highest beer garden in the world, and it was quite amazing. And then the kicker to all of it, we all went to see Adele on the 14th of August. 80,000 people. It was like Lollapalooza with one act. It was amazing. It was cool to share the Olympic experience with the wife and then do adult things outside of the country. Like the beer gardens were I was like, man, I could just do this thing. Oktoberfest is right here on our calendar right now. Third weekend of September goes on for 3 weekends. Traditionally, it's like, man, I need to go to Munich more because that was just an awesome trip. So get a chance to see the women win 2 gold medals, announced, have the cool thing for me was, again, my wife getting the opportunity to come to the Olympics, and she doesn't travel with me on work trips, wrestling trips. So we got to spend some time on a work trip together and not think about work afterwards. So that was a cool thing. And then with some good friends as well. So wrestling friends, because we're all wrestling people, and the wives had to tolerate us. I guess that was the way it was. But once the wrestling was over, that toleration was okay. So that was my Olympic trip. You guys had the beach and golf. I had steamy Paris. It was a little warm over there at the base of the Eiffel Tower, and Sarah Hildebrandt, Allure winning golds for Team USA and other medals across the board on men's and women's freestyle. So that was my trip. I enjoyed that immensely.
So how about Paris? What did you? I heard Munich, but what about Paris? I've never been. It looks like such a gorgeous town, and all the the romance comedies are set there, and it just seems like a great place to bring your wife.
It was really cool. I mean, we went back the last day after we flew out of Paris, so we went back and then ate at a restaurant 56 stories up with the Eiffel Tower in the background. So yeah, there's the food scene that goes with that whole. It is a good place to bring the wife. I loved about it is the transportation was great. The metro system was really easy to use. With any European city, you're going to get that, it's still one of those smoking countries. So You're going to
Yeah.
get the cigarette smoke like you do in a lot of places in Europe anyway. So that's the only negative thing I can say about the trip was, okay, I'm not a fan of cigarettes. So that's that is what it is. You're just going to experience that. I mean, there's places in the States you're going to deal with that or vape smoke, whatever. So that's not a knock on the city itself by any stretch. It was really cool. I had a chance to hit a tap room or two and then watch some sports. I got into judo for a day, checked some of that out. The French love judo. Beach volleyball was right next door, so I walked in, saw a little bit of that. And then another cool thing about it is the Seine runs right through it, and wrestling had its hospitality house. Like there's Team USA house and all those houses. Well, wrestling had one, and it was on a restaurant like Riverboat right at the base of the Eiffel Tower. So I also had the opportunity to interview some of our Olympic champions from all across the world at the base of the Eiffel Tower with that. So France is definitely, the food is tremendous. It's very walkable in a lot of places. I mean, it's big. It's a sprawling city. So it's, from one side to the next, it can take you an hour and 20 minutes to get across of it. Some train trips are like 30, 40 minutes. So Paris did a great job. They did a great job hosting the World Championships in 2017. So I had no worries that they were going to do a great job. I had a great production team to work with. Javi Sens, who was my producer in Tokyo, and his team did a great job. So it was just really low key. I really wasn't really nervous at all. But as far as the city goes, it was excellent. I would go back to Paris again without question.
Nice to hear. And you did a great job, Jason, too. I enjoyed watching it and hearing you. You did a great job.
That is pretty. That I gotta say, from my vantage point, yeah, it is cool to go back and watch stuff like that's a medal ceremony. Cool. I geek out over the NCAAs, but it's doing the Olympics once every 4 years. I'm just fortunate enough to have that gig. So as long as I don't screw it up by saying something stupid, which as long as you guys don't coerce me into saying something stupid on this show, I think I'm good.
Yeah, well,
I'm worried about you guys.
Yeah, you brought up.
And Jason, I have to say, I'm still liking the haircut.
Let's see, June, July, August. Yeah, this is my 4th month. I'm that guy.
Yeah,
I'm that guy now.
Looks good on you.
And Jason,
I'll just gotta work on the shine. Now in the studio, though, I got to do everything. I'd spent all this time like worried about the shine here. Now I'm gonna change the lighting in here a little bit, and it's gonna be there. So get used to the brain waves. So now I just got to make sure it just doesn't look, I don't know. Maybe get some of that powder, like when no, I'm not gonna wear makeup for this show. Come on.
I do remember, and it's been a couple of decades, being in the studio, and we went to break, and they came out with a big powder puff and hit the top of my head. I thought I must be really.
Was this when you were doing Matt time? Was this Matt time?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's an old throwback to the old late '90s Kevin Hazard Matt time. I remember Reed Landry from the Prep Page was a guest on that show with you one time.
Yes,
a long time ago. At the time, him and I were both I think he was in high school when he started the Prep Page. And I was just first year in college when I started math. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. We are
sorry.
We got a lot of stats to talk about. We got a lot of stats to discuss. So without any further ado, we're going to switch over to our display here. And as we've kept on to it, Glenn, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Part 2 of 3. And we also, if you're watching, which we do encourage you to watch, we have the slideshow that accompanies this. Each show is on MatTalkOnline.com. It's on NWCAOnline.com. We have it on the video on NWCAOnline.com, your audio on any podcast app of choice, your choice, whether it be Apple Podcasts or whether it be on Spreaker, whether it be on Spotify. You know where to find. If you're listening to us through the podcast, you've already got this. But MatTalkOnline.com, NWCAOnline.com. We'll have the accompanying slideshow to go with it. And Glenn, we did something a little new to help the people out this week.
Yes, we did a little something new here. We're going to have what's called in this episode. And if you're trying to go back or find some stuff specifically, we have what a lot of people call table of contents. We call it in this episode. And you can go to the slide in case you're looking to see there. Okay. So another thing that we did here is some people were asking me at the convention, why do we do this show? They were asking me and Kevin when we were there live. And it basically, Mike Moyer, of course, the ED of the NWCA, approached us and he wants to have a library statistical analysis for the NWCA. And as Jason just mentioned, You can go back on Matt Talk on NWCA and find the stuff. So that's basically why we're doing this. And then we have our normal stuff. I feel like a number, okay, because this is a show about numbers, okay, and then what we derive from them. And then, of course, the most famous phone number ever, Danny's Glass in Yorktown, Virginia, 8675309.
We got
Okay.
I got to call them up, at least put a logo on their page here for one episode. Be like,
Yeah.
hey, we'll give you, I don't know, maybe we got to get them some, I don't know, what, anybody down there need some auto glass?
Yeah,
Check it out.
exactly.
They also do some race car stuff. Anyway, we got to find a way to work that deal.
If you're in the peninsula and you need your glass done on your car, Danny's Glass is the guy to do it.
We need to
Okay.
clip that and send it to him. Be like, look what we were doing for you guys. We've been doing this for like
Yeah.
2 years with these guys.
And he's going to
Exactly.
say, I wondered why I had that big uptick. On
Yes,
the
yes.
third week of the month every year.
All these wrestlers. Yep. Okay, so of course the opinions expressed on the show do not necessarily reflect any policies or opinions of the NWCA. And just so everybody knows, doesn't mean that Gorms, Jason, and Kevin agree on everything here. Okay, just because I say something, don't hang it on Kevin and Jason, and same way, vice versa. Okay. MatStats is based on numbers and stats and analyzing them. It's not based on opinions. Okay, it's facts, not opinions. Just so everybody knows. It revolves around the stats, as we always talk about. Now, we'd like to start out this show too, as is on slide 9 here, and give everyone how many 4-year college teams there are, men and women, NCAA and NAIA. As of 8/31 of this year, there was 511. Keep it going, guys. Let's get this thing up to as big as number as we can. It's great for the sport.
Yeah, 831 is the ballpark number here, although we're into September as we're recording this particular episode. But yeah, we've had a couple new programs. Jersey and Kane University's added 2. We've got another one. Dick Spalding's about to come on board. We've got a Division II, I think, that's coming on board soon. That one has yet to be announced. By the time you watch the show, it might be announced. So we've got programs are just still every show this number goes up. So again, that's the Matt fact on the Matt stat is the growth of college wrestling is still happening, and it's also happening at the high school levels too. With I'm in the middle of some projects working on girls high school wrestling numbers going back to 1999 1998 when Hawaii first sanctioned, 1999 when Texas. So we're going to have, Glenn doesn't know this yet. I'm dropping the bomb on him now, but we're going to have some high school girl statistics to look at, because now we're in those 40s numbers. Now it's a question of like which states don't have it versus which states do have it. And that's a good thing to do. And that's also going to help the growth of college programs. When you get that critical mass of athletes, I always said when they were adding these many programs, it's like you need your second class of high school kids to go through to really see the rise on the girls' side of wrestling. And that's going to basically trickle up to the women's college wrestling thing. And of course, with emerging sports status, we're going to be close to a championship. Maybe as soon as next year on the NCAA level. The NAIA already got it. The NJCAA already has it. The NCWA has been doing it for a while. So that's where we're at there. So a little foreshadowing on our programs page. This is like my favorite part of the show is the programs page.
Well, and you talk about women's wrestling.
Whoa, what a segue.
Now have 151 4-year college teams. So that's up. It keeps going up. And it really is become a really integral part of collegiate wrestling. I really believe, like this slide says, we wouldn't see the growth in men's wrestling right now without the growth in women's wrestling.
Agreed. Okay, guys. Jason and Kevin mentioned about the convention we were just at recently. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Mike, Jackie, Dan, Curry, Nate, Jim, Stephanie, Beth Ann, Dave, Paul, Cassandra, and all the other interns. I think they do a fantastic job. Just so everybody knows, since this is a stat show, the 4 largest NWCA conventions ever were the last 4, because there was a COVID situation there. So it's not the last 4 years, but that's a pretty impressive thing. And way back when, before electricity, I used to be an assistant coach in college, and we didn't even hear talk of the NWCA convention then. Now I won't miss it. It's fantastic. So guys, keep up a great job. And I mean, it was just a fantastic job by Mike and his entire staff.
If you haven't been, go. And let's talk about the convention just a little bit. We did make some predictions. And Glenn, how did your predictions do?
Not as well as Kevin's did in the Olympics. Okay. So I'm the Sultan of Stat. I'm not the guru of predictions by any means. Okay. I picked a guy that won a bronze. Kevin picked a guy that won a silver. So Kevin beat me out. We both predicted a woman to win the gold, same woman to win the gold. So Kevin definitely wins the he wins the Chris Berman Award for
Poobah power.
yeah. Yeah, Kevin.
Speaking of Poobah power, he is loving retirement. You see this shirt? For those watching,
Look at
he
that.
has got the most retired shirt, got a beach shirt on ever. This guy is just loving his Delaware beach life. It's just, if I
There's
would wear
nothing
that
like
at my
the
age, I would be mocked heavily. Your age, you are applauded for it. So I applaud you, sir, for your haircut and your. Actually, I might wear that shirt just to annoy my wife.
It's a great color. Good color for you, Jason.
I should have worn a Hawaiian shirt for you, Kevin, if I known you were going to sport that.
You wear too many loud, obnoxious things anyway, and that doesn't count the Vols stuff. Anyway,
Anyway, I am loud and obnoxious.
we talk about burying the lead. We've got to get to. We've got a lot of content to get through here. So,
Okay.
Glenn,
The goal of this
you got to
episode
speed down
is-
64 on this.
Okay. The goal of this episode is to see how the 3-point takedown has affected our sport.
Okay. 2024, they changed it to 3 points, biggest scoring change, since in a long time. It's so we've now been looking at it. And Glenn, what did we learn from our study?
Okay. Well, first of all, Hazard and Fipsy did all this research. Wanted to give them a shout out. So what we learned here, okay, we're trying something new. We're going to give you guys a taste of what's coming up and then review it, then analyze it, then review it. Okay. We saw more points per match. The D1 and D2 were similar. We saw a small decrease in the number of takedowns per match. Escapes went up, reversals went down. The totals were about the same. Back points and exposures were way down. Riding time and stalling remained pretty much constant. And scoring moves per match went down slightly. Okay. So, since we're in the move for time here, slide 17.
Okay. We've just covered the decrease in scoring, collegiate wrestling over the years. So what were the changes in scoring from 2023 at the D2 championships? We did D1. Now we're going to look at D2.
Okay. Real quick, the methodology, if you want to read it, you can read it on the thing so we don't waste a lot of time describing it. But the biggest difference in D2, we counted all the points. With D1, we didn't count points per match, we were pins. But I control for that later in the show. Okay. So, Kevin, 19.
So scoring changes 23 to 24. So in the D1 episode, more things changed, the more things they say the same. Scoring went up 23, almost 24%. How did that relate to what happened in the D2 championships?
Okay, the D2 championships, the scoring went up 17% from slightly over 10 points per match to about 11 3/4. Okay.
And points per match, D1, D2, how did they compare?
Okay, how they compare, you can see on slide 23. Okay, we control there on the D2 without pins, and they actually become closer to each other, the D1 and D2, as we get to 2024. Okay, that points there, the 12.36 for D2, eliminates any of the matches that were pins because logically you can consider a match that has a pin will have less points because it doesn't last 7 minutes by definition. Okay. We have learned on the past and on current research that D2 had higher scoring than D1. This is not a crazy thing. In 2023, SEC football had 55.5 points per game, and the NFL had a little over 43. Okay, so in other words, as the level of talent gets higher, it's not unusual for the scoring to get lower. Like what's lower scoring than World Cup soccer, right? Okay.
Okay, so D1 championships had a lower points per match than D2. Not a surprise. The points per match were lower. This is common in sports as the talent level increases. We did see a smaller difference in the two divisions when the takedown was worth 3 points. So that might be significant. Points per match. How did the scoring change in the points per match at the D2 championships?
Okay, thank you for that question, Kevin. What you can see here on this slide is these are the points per match coming from takedowns, back points, reverse riding, stalling. Okay, after the takedown became worth 3 points, everything kept in the same order. Okay, takedown, escape, back, reverse riding, stalling. The biggest thing that changed, of course, was takedown points per match, not takedowns per match, takedown points per match, and also back points reduced pretty much significantly there too. So
Can
if
we
you
talk about that? Can we go back and look at that?
certainly
So, I mean, you're looking at takedowns. D2 points per match was 4.62, and it's now 6.65. That's one takedown, right? Really? Or is that two takedowns?
No, it's still, the
It's
2 point
takedowns.
takedown 23 versus it's 2. 2 and 2 is 4, and then 2 and 3 is 6. So
it's one
I'm
more
looking at it.
takedown,
You
Kevin.
still got 2 takedowns a match is what we're two
That's
and
Yeah,
what I'm
change.
saying. It's not
yeah.
so it's a delta of 44%, and I think
On
we're going to get to that, but it's no more takedowns.
the what you see here is the points from takedowns have
Correct.
increased 44%. Then when we go to the next slide, you can see the percentage of all the points scored, whether they're from takedown, escape, back points, etc. Takedowns went from 46% to 56%. Once again, that's not a 10% difference, that's a 23% difference. That's a huge difference, guys, in the amount of takedowns per points per match. Okay. The reverse,
That's
the riding
significant.
time, stalling aren't any different. Escape's not different. Okay.
So you win on your feet, you lose on your feet. The major difference is the importance of the takedown in 24, whether it was D1 or D2. 23 was 46%. Now it's 56. Modern era, the takedown has never been more important. So, difference in scoring D1 and D2. We looked at D2 and we looked at D1. You might think that they're different. Is there any reason to think that they are so different that the D2 analysis is not applicable to the D1 analysis?
Thank you for that, Kevin, because I got a lot of that feedback from people that thought it might be so different and stuff like that. But as you can see from slide 31, they're almost the same darn thing. Okay. The level of talent is better in Division One. Okay. However, as you can see from the chart there, the scoring remains almost the same in both of them. Okay. Um,
Also want
and
to
it's
bring up too, and I'm sure you're going to address this, the bracket size. So our data set for Division 2 is a little bit smaller than Division 1, just because the number of qualifiers at the Division 2 and Division 3 championships is not 33 per weight class. So it's not quite half as many matches, but it's still a significant number of matches, especially when you look at them over the years, or when you look at championship and consolation. But yeah, the D2 and D3 brackets are smaller. So when we look at that, I'd be curious one of these days if we get to the NAI numbers, because they're up at 280 per, and to see if they fit right in the middle or not. But I'm going to throw more at Glenn's plate later. But yeah, just to
okay.
be mindful that D2 and D3 brackets are smaller than Division 1.
Yeah, and to follow up what Jason said, there are 340 matches in Division Two tournament and 640 in Division One. So there's a significant amount more. Okay, then the scoring categories as a percentage of terms from the points, since they're almost identical in the points and that they're all almost the same there. Okay, what we found from this is the more divisions change, the more the sport stays the same. To do a playback on a title, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
The more they change, the more it stays the same. But we saw more points per match in D2. However, percentage breakdown scoring, there really is, like you just said, they're very similar D1 and D2. It's very statistically similar. And I'm going to be curious, and I know we're going to talk about this later. And Jason made a good point. It's half the matches, so let's get another year in there, and then we'll have 2 and 2 years, and see if that makes a difference. Is there enough data in 1 year's tournament to make that make those points?
Kevin, there are some big windows with the amount of matches, like I said. However, some weird things can happen. We're going to need to follow up this thing after 2025's Nationals with the same thing. Might be a good topic at the convention since there won't be an Olympics next year. Who knows? Okay. Now, what we did then, if you see on slide 36, the regular decisions, major decisions, technicals, it compares Division 1 with Division 2 from 2023 and stuff like that. Um, the big difference there is there's more pins in Division 2, okay, in that situation. And then in the 2024, okay, technical falls, as we learned in episode 34, just go up through the roof at Division 1. And that's why I say, who knows what might have happened. I think after 2025, Kevin and Jason, we need to do 2 years prior, 2 years after study. So it's the same amount. Okay. So the outcome of the matches are very similar. It is transferable to say, I watched Division 2, Division 1, etc. It's the same game. It's just a higher level of talent. Okay. Now, let's go to slide 40. Jason, please.
Okay. Takedowns per match, takedown points per match. We learned in episode 34, when we were talking about D1, the huge importance of takedowns in 24. Now, let's look at 23 and 24 in the D2 championships. And how does that data compare?
Okay. As you can see on the slide that Jason is up right now, slide 41, as we discussed before, the total takedown points went up 44%. It went from 4.6 to 6.6, just a little bit over 2 points per match. However, the number of takedowns per match, as you can see on slide 42, okay, had a very small decrease, 3.9% down. Okay, there were 2.31 takedowns per bout. Now there's 2.22. Okay, so the points went up because it's basically the same amount of takedowns. It's a very slight decrease. Okay, but the points just went up because we inflated the points of those.
So, Glenn, from a statistical standpoint, again, for I deal in the world of statistics all the time, but the statistician versus an actual statistician, they're different. So let's also like the nuance. The term statistically significant is that a statistically significant statistic to say, well, takedowns are down? I mean, is this something that's like,
No.
Oh no, Sky's fault. We changed the rules and scoring went down, or scoring went up, but takedowns went down. Is this enough to make that kind of claim?
No, it's not statistically significant enough to say the takedowns went down. They actually went slightly up by about the same percentage in Division 1 to counter this. This is just what we call happenstance in stats. Okay, who knows? We might have had a couple guys that really were takedown, cut them loose type guys that graduated. And then we had a couple more riding guys this year. It's basically the same amount of takedowns. Okay, so we can look at this and say there's no difference in the amount of takedowns, even though they went down slightly in D2 and slightly up in D1. What we can say, okay, from almost 1,000 matches each year between Division 1 and Division 2 combined, okay, is the points went up and the takedowns remained the same. So increasing the takedown value had no effect on the number of takedowns. Okay, so it's, I'm a Lafleur curve guy, being a businessman for years. I'll get into that in a whole nother show. Okay, what it does show us, though, is the takedown is worth more points. Okay, so it's no surprise. The guy that gets the first takedown wins over 81% of the matches. And there's no takedown in about 5% of all matches, which is bizarre. Okay. Um, so the loser only wins 13% of the guy that gets the first takedown, the loser only gets the first takedown 13% of the time. Now, as you can see from the next slide, the first takedown used to be almost 20% of all points in a match. Now it's a little over 25. So it went from 1/5 to 1/4 of all the points. So if I score right away on a takedown, I got 1/4 of all the points in basically the average match. Okay. That's a pretty good significance to say you're going to win. Now, as a coach, I always wanted my guy to get the first takedown and the second one and the third one. So it's not like you're saying, oh, get that first takedown. You're going to coach that anyway. But it's a hell of a lot more important, and it could change the strategy of matches in the future.
All right. So to sum it up, more takedown points in the men's NCAA D2 championships than we saw in 23. However, slightly less takedowns in 24 than we saw in 23. So more points, less takedowns, but as we talked about, not significantly different. But the importance of the first takedown increased 20% to 25%. That is significant. Maybe not statistically, but it seems to be.
No, that is statistically important. That is.
Wiping the hair that might still be there out.
It's not there.
You passed the midterm, Kevin.
Okay,
Hey,
so we
C's get degrees.
finished with takedowns. Let's talk about escapes and reversals. How much of a change were there here? So takedowns went down slightly. What about escapes and reversals?
Okay, and once again, I can't emphasize this enough. In just 2 years, we really don't know enough to really bang the drum, but we know enough to slightly bang the drum. Okay, escapes were relatively constant from 23 to 24, 2.31 to 2.51, and of course, escapes are worth 1 point, so we know that's how many escapes were there, not just points from escapes, but escapes. Okay. The reversal points per match decreased 21% from 0.7 points per match to 0.55. Okay. So I did a little digging deep into this. The number of escapes and reversals are relatively the same. Okay. If you add them up, you had 2.66 reversals and escapes in 23, 2.79 in 24. That comes out to points per match, okay, of 3.01 on slide 50, 3.01 in 23, and 3.06 in 24. So the total way of getting out from the bottom, whether it's an escape or reversal, totals up to the same amount of points. But what we do see is less reversals and slightly more escapes. Who knows if this is a strategy thing? You know, if I think I could take you down, I'll get 3 points out of that. It's a little bit difficult to say the thing now. We saw the same amount of action and the same scoring, but a slightly different way to get there. The eyeball probably could not tell the difference when you went to tournament in 24 and remember back to 23. You know, the human brain is fallible. You know, hell, I thought Jeremy Pruitt was going to be a good coach. So you talk about the human brain being fallible.
Is this another Tennessee reference, Glenn?
Yeah, he's been fired for good reason.
I'm making a note of that so I can cut it out of the show.
He's been fired for good reason. Okay.
All right, so in escapes and reversals, I mean, just it's all there, but basically there's no difference in the total escapes and reversals with the new scoring.
Correct.
The points.
Correct, Kevin.
Now, back points and exposures. How is there a big change in back points between 23 and 24?
Yes, there are, Kevin. Back points per match dropped almost 31% from 1.75 to 1.21. Now you look at that and it's just, oh, it's only a half point per match. That is a big difference, guys. That is a significant difference. Okay. And the winners' back points dropped drastically, for whatever reason. Okay. Now, if you want to do a deep dive into the exposure, times a wrestler's been on his back, what we did was we added up the near fall 2, near fall 3, near fall 4, and pins. Obviously, there were no near fall 3 scoring rules in 23, but you would either got a 2 or 4-pointer then. And the number of pin, because if you pin somebody, you don't get back points. So you have to add this all up to get a total number of exposures. What we see there is a lot of numbers on slide 56 that I'll sum up for people who aren't all stats crazy like me and show you the exposure per match went from almost 0.7 per match to a little less than 0.5. You see this on slide 57. That is a decrease of 30%. Okay.
I think also interesting there is, and I'd like to find out why they put in a 3-point back point. If you go look, there was almost none. I mean, if you got a guy, if you get a 2-point tilt or something, I get it, but you're holding more than 2, you're usually going to get 4. So it was just a minute difference.
Yeah. You know how many points
number
per
of
match
3-point exposures.
And near fall 3 per match, 0.04.
Yeah.
So that rule change affected nothing.
So you're either getting the cheap, getting the 2, and then readjusting, maybe trying to roll through or 2 more, or you've got something that's gonna get 4.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was curious as to why they put a 3 in, and I was really curious to see what Glenn came up with, if there were a lot of it, and there weren't. So it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. That might be one that goes away after a while.
I don't think it. It may not make a lot of sense. I don't think it's detrimental. I don't think.
Oh,
it's,
no.
I don't think it's harmful. I see no point in now taking it away now that it's there. I didn't see what I think some of us feared. Now, granted, with give coaches time to game rules because that's what happens. But the difference is I didn't see as many challenges that we could see. Like, oh, I want 3, not 4 to slow down a match, or 4, not 3. I didn't see a ton of that throughout the course of the season last year. Now, granted, my viewpoint was the NAIs, the D3s, the D1s, and again at the tournaments, I'm not paying super close attention. But dual meets at St. Cloud State, dual meets at Augsburg, dual meets at Little Rock. So didn't see a lot of that. I don't think I don't know if I saw it at all off the top of my head. So not saying it didn't happen, but again, the 3-point near fall I think is okay, cool. You turn them for 2, 3, or 4, good. You're getting points. So I'm fine with it being where it is. So that is my Matt opinion.
Here, let me sum this up for you real quick. The near fall 3. If you have 0.04 points per match with the thing, okay, with near fall 3, off the top of my head, that's probably like 13, 14 times it happened in Division 2s. Okay, so the odds that somebody won by 1 point because they had a near fall 3 instead of 2 is basically 0. So it probably affected nothing. So we're spending enough time discussing the near fall 3.
Yeah, okay. Legislating the outlier, something that the sport has done too much, in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah, if you want me to, I'll look back and see if it affected any match at all. Not during this show, I'm not looking back. Okay, so MatStats is very concerned about the decrease in exposures from 23 to 24. Okay. It's a 2-year window, might not really be enough. Okay. We will follow this up. Like, as I said, there are 340 matches in Division 2 and 640 in Division 1. So that's not a small window, but 1 year to the next, is it a trend or an anomaly? Only time will tell. Okay. I'll use one of the best analogies in America's game, baseball. There was a guy named Tuffy Rhodes who had 3 home runs in his first 3 at-bats one day at Wrigley Field, an opening day. Only major league player ever to do that. He only had 54 at-bats before that, only played in 20 major league games. He only hit 8 home runs the rest of his career. But for that one day, nobody was better than Tuffy Rhodes on opening day. So that clearly is a much smaller window opening day, but there's been so many opening day games, yet Tuffy stands alone on that.
94.
A true
Wow,
anomaly.
I'm just trying to think. That's in my era, but it's not a name I remember. I remember Bill Spears hitting 3 on opening day for the Brewers one time, and like, man, he's on pace to hit how many?
300.
He's gonna be better than Cecil Fielder. That's
yeah,
what I
almost
was
500. Yeah, 40, yeah,
46.
Yeah, 46. Yeah. So, go ahead, Kevin.
So, sum that up. There is a decrease in the total of back points, and we're going to watch it for in the coming years to see if that it was an anomaly this year, or whether that's a trend. And who can say whether that was because there was the change in the takedown rule. Riding
Now the
time,
fun
stalling,
part.
penalties. What about difference in riding time, stalling, and penalties? What did we see there, Glenn?
Okay. Thank you. We'll start with riding time, and then we'll get into it. If you didn't notice, Jason was putting a stalling call at people. Okay. The riding time points per match remained relatively constant, 0.39 to 0.42. Once again, this went up, but it's the same thing. It's not a significant difference at all. Now let's go into stalling. Okay. Stalling and penalty points went up 28%. Okay. From one year to the next. Now they're low numbers, 0.32 points per match to 0.41. So when you get low numbers, a couple things can sway that. So that's why it's interesting. We'll have to do that, 2-year window on each side of this rule to see if this is affecting it. The interesting part about this, the winner's points are constant for stalling, but the loser's points went up, which leads someone to believe, the guy that's winning the match is stalling more. Now, I was asked by a couple people, including the big boss of the NWCA, to do a show one time to dig deeper into stalling. We will have a future show where we dig deeper into the stalling, when it happened, who gets hit, what the score was, etc. Okay. Stalling is an interesting call because it's really the only opinion scoring move in wrestling. It's an opinion thing whether somebody's stalling or not.
But technically, Eric, a fall is a judgment call. But I mean, in my opinion, he had 2 shoulders down the mat. There's something to validate it. There's a visual validation when you say, "Oh, yep, 2. There's the scapula, 1 slap." Yes, technically it's your judgment. Make the call since you cannot challenge a fall because it's a judgment call. But just giving you that technicality. Technically, anyway.
Yeah, Jason. I agree with you that technically everything's an opinion, right? But
like Tennessee football being good, that's technically an opinion because it's not rooted in fact.
Statistically, it is a fact. As now that you mention that, after 3 games, they have an SEC all-time record for scoring margin.
This is my fault, guys. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, viewers and listeners.
That
was
is
my fault.
Statistically significant, winning by 60 points a game.
Okay, go edit that out of the show too.
But there is a good point. There is a good point on the stalling. They did make it more codified on the 5 second on the ankles, and they count. And I think in 25, they've made that 5 second rule pretty much everywhere. So that's going to be interesting to see how that affects stalling and penalty points. So it wasn't just takedowns. It was, it's not as subjective. Now you watch them, the refs counting. 1,001,
They're counting everything. They've made the referee do so much during a match that's like, that's one thing we could get the Get McCormick on here one of these shows and say, hey,
Oh yeah.
what's it like now for a referee to you got to count here, you got to count here, you got to count here, you got to count.
He needs 5 hands to count
I
everything.
was told, this is wrestling, I was told there would be no math as we're on a show with math. Anyway.
All right, so we've talked about pretty much everything. What about scoring moves? So that's what we're looking for falls, we're looking for score moves. How increase or decrease? What did the difference of the 2-point to 3-point takedowns create in scoring moves?
Okay, the scoring moves went down very slightly. They went down a little bit over 2%. Now, once again, there's levels of degrees of going up and down. When it's such a small thing, it's basically statistically constant. Okay. The point of this whole slide here is to see how many scoring moves there were per match. And this would be a good quiz to ask people and see what number they come up with. It's 5.5 to a little bit under 5.4 and 24. So that's how many scoring moves you get per match. Now,
and Glenn, when you're breaking down the numbers that Phipps and Hazard put together, when you say scoring move, you mean a takedown, escape. You mean everything we just talked about: takedown, escape, a near fall 4, a near fall 2. So in that
Correct.
match, so that's 4 scoring moves.
Correct.
Yes, it counts
so
everything.
That just to clarify what a scoring move is. It's not. It's only a takedown, or if you've got 4 takedowns, 4 scoring moves. If you've got an escape is a scoring move because it puts a point on the board. A stall, technically, as we said in the last slides, stall and penalty points are scoring moves. So whether or not that's a 2-point move, a 1-point move, a 3-point move, or a 4-point move, that's what we're discussing.
Correct, Jason. Thank you for that clarification. It's everything but riding time and stalling, because riding time is not a scoring move. You get that over time. Okay.
I hate riding time, but that's another mad opinion.
Okay. So, guys, what I'm trying to say here with the scoring moves, since that is like the piece de resistance of things, is we increased the number of points for a takedown. It had no effect on the amount of scoring moves.
Points went up, moves didn't.
Correct.
All right, law of unintended consequences. So we're at what we just said on that last slide. Does this follow the law of unintended consequences? Could it affect our sport in a way that was never intended?
Sure, this could only time will tell this, Kevin and Jason, whether something's been affected. Right now, definitely the pins and the back points have a big difference from 23 to 24. Okay, we'll know more about this after a second year analysis of it. Okay, but there is a possibility that this changes the sport in some way that was never intended. Okay, our sport could be changing right before our eyes. We will explore more of this in part 3 of the topic on the show. Is it good or is it bad? Do the fans want this? I don't know. This is a thing where, as a stats guy, I'm not the eyeball test. I think pretty much everyone in the William Mary Suite or walking around Nationals last year said there was much more action because of the takedown rule. Well, guess what, guys? There wasn't. Okay. So, it's we have opinions and we come up with them somehow.
It changing more than you realize in a year. And I went back and checked, because back in the early 60s, it was either 61 or 62. They changed the rule. There were so many takedowns. Coaches got together and they made a change where first takedown was worth 2 points and every other one was worth a point. I think it was either 61 or 62, and it ended in 66. They said, we can't just wrestle on our feet. We got to keep mat wrestling as part of the sport. And I think there's people that agree with that. So this might be something that maybe the pendulum swings and might change back sometime in the future.
Yes, Kevin, it definitely could. Who knows?
All right. With the large changes in the number of tech falls and pins, should we do an even deeper dive, points per minute? And what about, should we cover that next time?
Yes, Kevin, I think we should cover that next time. And that's going to involve you and Fipsy doing a lot more work. Thank you for requesting that.
Not a problem. I
Not
like
it.
going back through.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Jason
not it.
tapped out.
Not
Jason
it. Nope. My thumb's on
Yeah,
the table, my fingers on my nose. I said not it. I'm out on all three of those.
Okay. All right. Kev notes. 151 four-year collegiate women's wrestling teams, and that's just going to keep rolling. D2 points per match. I was going to say points per minute. Points per match, 17%, 23 to 24. D1 had a 23% increase in the same time period. When controlling for pins, D2 became much closer to the points per match to D1. So it, and again, that may be an anomaly, but they really tightened up the difference. Takedowns were significantly more important in the D2 2024 tourney. Points per match went up slightly more than 2 point or 44% increase. Takedowns, 56% of all points in the matches in 2024, as compared to 46%. Coaches, spend more time on your feet. The difference between tourney scoring in the D1 and D2 was not significant. The percentage difference in regular decisions between D1 and D2 got much closer in 24 over 23. Significantly more takedown points per match in 24, but the number of takedowns decreased very slightly. Basically, they stayed the same. Pins dropped, as did exposures. And we're going to look at more years of data to see if this is significant. Points per match, D1 and D2 are up. Scoring moves per match pretty much stayed the same. And from this, it is hard to say that the new rule created more action.
Yeah, thank you for summing that up, Kevin. Next month's show is part 3 of the more things change, the more they stay the same. We're going to dive deeper into this thing, even do it per minute, just to make sure we can say what action really is happening for the amount of time and stuff. I personally think this is the biggest rule change in my lifetime in our sport, and it deserves a lot of attention from MatStats. Anything else, Jason, Kevin? Anything in closing about this show?
No, I agree. I think it's a huge change, and I really think as coaches get more attuned to that change and they start to change how they run their practices, we may see difference. We may see more scoring moves. Or I know I talked to a couple of officials. They thought it would mean less scoring moves, and they were not surprised when they saw that stat.
To piggyback on what Kevin said there, I did feel like some of the doomsday. How are we going to game this before we even get onto it? Is the action stepping out of people taking the point to step out of bounds to give up the stall rather than give up a 3-point takedown. Now we get some of that. It's all situational, but the negative impact that was feared has not been realized. That's still, again, 1 year. We got to, I'm not saying we got to give our coaches time to game it, but every major rule change and every rule change in sport that I've been around wrestling in the last 25 years has had, again, that unintended consequence that we had talked about on a previous slide. So I'm waiting for that shoe to drop, whether it's a boot or whether it's a slipper. The impact is still yet to be seen. So that's something I've had to wait and see. I was pleasantly surprised. Dare I say I was slightly wrong in my expectation of how this was going to get gamed immediately. It wasn't gamed immediately, probably because situations were hitting coaches and teams for the first time. So the more we get, more they get reps in those situations, I think that's what could lead to any potential drawbacks. But right now, eye test. Like I said, this show's not about the eye test. I felt, the action was, maybe the scoring may not have been, more scoring. Doesn't mean action and scoring are not, mutually exclusive. So you can have more action with less scoring. You can have more, we can get down to the metrics of shot attempts per match. Is that up? There's so many different nuances too. to when we look at the data, which is what makes this show fun for me, is like, well, it's great talking points. This is a great bar discussion. This is a great suite discussion. This is a great in the stands in the lower bowl and round one discussion about the previous year. This is all these things that it's always wait and see too, because as we say, lies, damn lies, and statistics. So to that point, again, it's a wait and see. I'm curious to see what's going to happen year 2 of this rule. I'm excited because, again, optically, I felt you're going to get your 1-1 snoozers. It's going to happen. Kids aren't going to want to open up, or they're just so evenly matched that they're stopping each other. So, sometimes a 1-1 match can be exciting, even if there's just 2 scoring moves per match. So interesting to keep in mind. So, like I said, I've become more of a wait and see on this than I have. I don't know if I like this too much. So that's where I sit.
I got one more quick thing to say, Gormley. We have to have a slide next month that says, "Is it a boot or is it a slipper?" Because I really like that. That was very good.
I don't know. I just bobbed my head. I might have heard that
I know
somewhere.
that,
I don't
but
know.
I like
is
it.
Is it a Doc Martin or is it a dunk? I don't know. Give him the boot. Give him the slipper. Like, hit me with a shoe. Well, was it a boot? Was it a slipper? I don't know. Who throws a shoe? Really? Anyway.
Exactly.
I'm gonna ruin that. I'm gonna ruin that before we even get to use it next show. That's what's gonna happen.
Okay. Well, anyway, to all the viewers, we hope you enjoyed this and learned something about the new rule and the effect on the sport. We will see you next month with more about takedowns. On behalf of my fellow co-hosts, Jason Bryant and Kevin Hazard, I'm Glenn Gormley. See you next month.